This segment shows you how to read a principal's building report that is typically provided monthly from the Treasurer's Office and based on the appropriation measure and current spending. Also in this presentation, you'll see how to manage the accounts within a school. As a review of the last learning session's Worthington City School budget, there are 8 fund categories for different purposes with varying codes determined by the Uniform School Accounting System. The general fund, typically the largest fund, includes all district revenue, such as state foundation payments and general tax levy collections. Other dedicated revenue may be required to be placed into other funds. Monies expended from the general fund support all-purpose operational expenses. The debt service fund is created to account for committed revenue collected from a bond issue. Expenses retire outstanding debts from the principal and interest when building a new school. The capital projects fund comprises income from permanent improvement levies or money transferred into this account from the general fund. Disbursements from this fund involve fixed assets such as building repair, bus purchases, or equipment. The Special Revenue Fund includes funds designed for educational purposes from special sources and according expenditures. One such account within the Special Revenue Fund is the Principal's Fund, which remains at the principal's discretion. The Enterprise Fund takes account of business-like operations, such as the school's cafeteria operation or student fees. As an enterprise fund for food service, it generates income from lunch sales and federal as well as state reimbursements. Food supplies represent the largest expense in this category. On the other hand, Uniform School Supplies Fund establishes revenue from student fees and pays for student-related expenses. A district establishes a trust or fiduciary fund when it accepts responsibility to serve as trustee for an endowment. The endowment functions as the gift income, and the expenses are distributed as required by the trust, such as scholarship awards. The Internal Service Fund contains funds for services rendered on a cost reimbursement basis to others within the jurisdiction of the school system, such as student activities or clubs. An agency fund holds money for other parties until expended, such as a local library that contracts for fiscal services provided by the school district. Now look at an actual building report. The account number, abbreviated codes, are based on the Uniform School Accounting System that was seen earlier in this performance task. FUND represents fiscal activity within the broad category as explained earlier. As you will see, the building principal in this presentation manages and monitors only 3 different funds in this building report. The general fund, a special revenue fund in the form of a principal's fund, and an enterprise fund for uniform school supplies, including revenue from student fees. Other principals may monitor different fund accounts. Next, FUNC, or function, illustrates the purpose for which activities are performed. Fund activity with appropriate code numbers classifies 7 broad areas. Instruction for regular staff, spatial education staff, vocational instruction, support services in the form of staff support within the library, extracurricular activity functions, facilities acquisition and construction functions, debt service, and transfers and advances. Now back to our building report. OBJ, or object, represents an even further detail of an account line item. The object classification indicates the type of goods or services obtained as a result of a specific expenditure. For example, major object categories are salaries and wages, fringe benefits, purchase services for utilities, supplies, and new capital outlay or equipment. Thus, an appropriation line item using the Fund, Function, and Object Accounting System code of 001-1100-200 distinguishes that this account is the general fund. It is a cost of a regular instruction teacher's retirement and insurance benefits. Further accounting detail is clarified by SCC, or Spatial Cost Center, which recognizes spatial projects supported by restricted monies when more than one project exists within a given fund. SUBJ or subject codes illustrate specific learning areas such as English, math, science, or social studies. OU or operational unit pinpoints facilities in the district, such as a school, administrative building, or warehouse. IL or instructional codes differentiate between various grades or educational levels within the district. JOB or job assignment codes categorize what personnel do, and those codes are assigned by the district. The numbers from these codes also determine purchase order accounts that the purchased item will be receipted against. The best news is that school treasurers are the only individuals who need a thorough understanding of these codes and create them to develop the appropriation measure. Aspiring principals just need a basic understanding of the codes to be able to read building reports and perhaps develop purchase orders. After recognizing the coding system, the next required understanding is that of the columns. The first column, FYTD, appropriated, is the fiscal year to date amount of funding appropriated into each account. Next, prior fiscal year carryover encumbrances is the amount of money carried over from the previous year, which is then added to column 1 and creating the third column, which is FYTD expendable, or the amount of monies available to be spent in the current fiscal year. Next is the FYTD actual expenditures, or fiscal year to date money that is expended or can be spent. The next column represents MTD actual expenditures, or monthly expenditures to date, actual. Next, current encumbrances are those outstanding purchase orders that are reserved for payment when the item is received. FYTD unencumbered balance is a very important column because it provides the fiscal year to date monies that are available to be spent in each account line item. Last, FYTD percent expended is just the percentage of monies spent versus the monies appropriated in each account. Now that you have an understanding of the building report, let's look at the first actual line item from the principal's building report. General Fund 001-1100-423. This line item represents the appropriation and expenditures for regular instruction equipment at the Buckeye Trail Middle School. As you can see, the description is provided on the report, which makes knowing the specific codes for the building principal less significant. Notice that we have $669 appropriated for the fiscal year. $10 was carried over from the prior year, and the actual fiscal year to date expenditures has been $680.16. Notice that we have $135.12 that was spent in the past month, and there's an encumbrance of $324 outstanding. Therefore, the line item is in the negative balance of $325.16. Therefore, at some point prior to the closing of the fiscal year on June 30th, money from another line item with a positive balance will need to be transferred into this line item. For example, now look at the third item. It has a positive balance of $1,023.25. So, funds could be transferred from this line item into the instructional equipment repair line item. Typically, the principal may request these actions to the school treasurer, who in turn will present it to the school board for approval. In some instances, school treasurers take these actions to the board for approval themselves without consultation with the principal. Now read the fifth entry. This principal also manages and monitors an O18 fund or special revenue fund, which is the principal's fund. The principal's fund receives designated monies from such activities as vending machine money and building-wide fundraisers. Expenditures from the principal's fund may only be used for student events or activities, such as promotion exercises, academic benefits, banquets, and the like. Notice line item 1. Middle School Principal's Fund Services has $16,500 appropriated, with $20.04 carried over from the previous year. The actual fiscal year-to-date expenditures has been $1,309.65, leaving a unspent balance of $14,185.39. Now read the last line item. The last fund is the Spatial Revenue Fund that serves as a uniform school supply, which is also called a Rotary Fund. Because the amount of money is collected from student fees for home economics and general student supplies, it is then completely spent on students during the fiscal year. It is collected. The first line item comes from the uniform school supplies, middle school home economic fees, and in it has $1,078 appropriated in it, and none has been spent. Now, read the second line item. To conclude, you should become very familiar with your building reports to assist you in managing and monitoring your building appropriations effectively. And if you have questions about how to read your specific reports, do not hesitate to contact the Treasurer's Office or your superintendent for help.